In the vast darkness beyond human comprehension, where time and space collapse into themselves, there exists an entity so fundamental to the fabric of reality that even speaking its name invites a glimpse into the abyss. This is Yog-Sothoth, the all-in-one and one-in-all, the gate and the key, the guardian of the threshold. Before we venture into the forbidden knowledge that surrounds this cosmic entity, if you find yourself drawn to these mysteries of the Cthulhu Mythos, consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue exploring the darkest corners of cosmic horror literature. H.P. Lovecraft created Yog-Sothoth as a fictional entity for his cosmic horror stories, first introducing the being in The Case of Charles Dexter Ward in 1927, and developing it further in the Dunwich Horror in 1928, as part of what would later be called the Cthulhu Mythos, a shared universe of cosmic entities and forbidden lore. Lovecraft intentionally wrote his stories in a documentary style, incorporating fictional forbidden texts like the Necronomicon, and presenting his tales as if they were recovered accounts or scholarly investigations, which gave them a veneer of authenticity that blurred the line between fiction and reality. This literary technique proved so effective that some readers, particularly those encountering the stories without context, believed these entities and texts might be real. Over the decades since Lovecraft's death in 1937, various occult practitioners, chaos magicians, and esoteric groups have adopted entities from the Cthulhu mythos into their actual spiritual practices, treating them as archetypal forces or egregores. Some believers argue that Lovecraft may have tapped into genuine cosmic truths through dreams or unconscious channeling, citing his own accounts of vivid nightmares that inspired his work. The compelling nature of Lovecraft's cosmic philosophy, that humanity is insignificant in a vast, uncaring cosmos governed by forces beyond our comprehension, resonates deeply with certain modern anxieties and existential concerns, making his fictional creations feel emotionally and philosophically true, even to those who understand they originated in pulp fiction magazines. Yog-Sothoth exists outside the conventional understanding of existence itself. Unlike entities bound by dimensional limitations, Yog-Sothoth is coterminous with all time and space, yet somehow remains outside of it. H.P. Lovecraft describes this paradoxical being in the Dunwich Horror, stating that Yog-Sothoth knows the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the key and guardian of the gate. Past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth. This is not merely a poetic flourish, but a fundamental truth about the entity's nature. Yog-Sothoth perceives all of time simultaneously. Every moment that has occurred, is occurring, and will occur exists as a single unified experience within its consciousness. To encounter Yog-Sothoth is to stand at the threshold between the known universe and the churning chaos beyond. The entity's title as the All-in-One speaks to its unique relationship with reality. While other cosmic entities occupy specific locations in space or exist in particular dimensions, Yog-Sothoth is simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. It permeates every atom of the universe while remaining completely external to it. This creates a paradox that human minds struggle to conceptualize. Yog-Sothoth is both immanent and transcendent, both within the fabric of reality and utterly beyond it. As the key, Yog-Sothoth represents the means by which the barriers between dimensions can be unlocked. The entity itself is the mechanism through which travel between realms becomes possible. Every point in space and time is a potential doorway, and Yog-Sothoth is the lock, the key, and the door itself, all three concepts merged into a single incomprehensible unity. When wizards and cultists perform rituals to summon entities from beyond, they are not simply calling to Yog-Sothoth for assistance. They are manipulating the fabric of reality that Yog-Sothoth fundamentally comprises. The concept of Yog-Sothoth as the guardian introduces another layer of complexity to its nature. The entity does not guard the gates in any protective or defensive sense that humans would understand. Rather, its very existence constitutes the barrier between dimensions. The laws of physics that keep this universe separate from the howling void beyond are expressions of Yog-Sothoth's presence. When these laws break down in places of strange geometry, during certain astronomical alignments, or through powerful rituals, what is actually occurring is a temporary alignment with Yog-Sothoth's true nature, allowing glimpses or passages through the dimensional barriers. Yog-Sothoth's relationship with causality differs fundamentally from every other form of existence. The entity does not experience cause and effect in any linear progression. Every cause and every effect exists simultaneously within its perception. This means that Yog-Sothoth knows the outcome of every action before it occurs, not through prediction or foresight, but because it perceives the outcome as having already occurred, currently occurring, and about to occur, all at the same instant. This temporal omniscience makes any attempt to deceive or outmaneuver the entity inherently futile. The gate, in reference to Yog-Sothoth, is not a physical doorway or portal in any conventional sense, but rather the entity itself serves as the fundamental threshold between different planes of existence and dimensions of reality. Yog-Sothoth is simultaneously the barrier that separates our ordered universe from the chaotic void beyond, the mechanism by which that barrier can be opened, and the passage itself through which entities and consciousness can travel between dimensions. When Lovecraft's texts refer to Yog-Sothoth as the gate, they mean that the entity literally constitutes the boundary between dimensional spaces. It is the interface where different realities meet, overlap, and can potentially merge. Every point in space and time where dimensions touch or could potentially intersect contains an aspect of Yog-Sothoth, making the entity omnipresent at all possible crossings between worlds. This is why the entity is also called the key. It possesses the means to unlock these dimensional barriers, because it is itself the lock, the key, and the door unified into one incomprehensible being. The gate is not something Yog-Sothoth guards or operates. Rather, the gate is what Yog-Sothoth fundamentally is, the living, conscious boundary between cosmos and chaos, between the known universe and the howling darkness that lies beyond human comprehension. The dimension-transcending nature of Yog-Sothoth means it exists in more spatial dimensions than human minds can comprehend. While humans perceive 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, Yog-Sothoth exists across countless dimensional axes. When the entity manifests in our reality, what observers see is merely a 3-dimensional cross-section of a being whose true form extends through dimensional spaces for which human language has no names. Attempting to perceive Yog-Sothoth's complete form would be analogous to a 2-dimensional being trying to comprehend a 3-dimensional sphere. They would see only a circle that changes size inexplicably, having no framework to understand the 3rd dimension through which the sphere extends. This multidimensional nature explains why descriptions of Yog-Sothoth vary so dramatically and seem contradictory. Different observers, at different times and places, witness different cross-sections of the same entity. One might see iridescent spheres, another might perceive angles and geometries that shouldn't exist in 3-dimensional space, while a third might experience Yog-Sothoth as pure mathematics made manifest, equations and formulas that seem to possess consciousness and intent. The entity's consciousness, if it can be called that, operates on principles entirely foreign to human cognition. Yog-Sothoth does not think in linear sequences of thoughts. It does not deliberate, consider options, or make decisions in any temporal sense. Instead, its consciousness is the simultaneous awareness of all information that exists across all of space-time and beyond. Every thought any being has ever had or will have, every possible outcome of every possible event, every configuration of matter and energy throughout all of existence, Yog-Sothoth perceives all of it at once, without distinction between past, present, and future. This absolute awareness extends beyond the physical universe into realms of pure concept and abstraction. Yog-Sothoth perceives not just the physical location of every particle in the universe, but also every possible universe that could have existed under different initial conditions. It is aware of mathematical truths that have no physical expression, of abstract concepts that will never be discovered, of forms of consciousness that could never evolve in any material substrate. The entity's nature as the boundary between order and chaos places it in a unique position within the cosmic hierarchy. Azathoth represents pure, mindless chaos, the random nuclear tumult at the center of ultimate void. The material universe represents order, matter and energy organized according to physical laws. Yog-Sothoth exists at the interface between these two states, simultaneously part of both and belonging to neither. It is the membrane that separates cosmos from chaos, yet it is also the gateway through which chaos can pour into the ordered universe. This dual nature makes Yog-Sothoth fundamentally paradoxical in ways that strain human logic to the breaking point. It is order because it maintains the boundaries that keep reality stable. It is chaos because it represents the potential for those boundaries to dissolve. It is the law that governs the relationship between dimensions, yet it is also the means by which those laws can be circumvented or broken. These are not contradictions to Yog-Sothoth. They are complementary aspects of its unified nature that only appear contradictory to beings trapped in linear time and three-dimensional space. The entity's timelessness also means it is unchanging in ways that transcend mere immortality. Other cosmic entities might be eternal in the sense that they do not age or die, but Yog-Sothoth exists outside of the very concept of change. It does not have a beginning, because that would imply a time before it existed. It will not have an end, because that would imply a time after it ceases. It simply is, eternally present across all of time, with no past state or future state, only a single unified state that encompasses all temporal moments. This eternal, unchanging nature makes Yog-Sothoth the ultimate repository of knowledge. Because it perceives all of time and space simultaneously, nothing is hidden from it. The location of every hidden treasure, the truth behind every mystery, the outcome of every future event, the innermost thoughts of every being, all of this information exists openly within Yog-Sothoth's awareness. This is why sorcerers seek to contact the entity despite the horrific dangers involved. No question is beyond its knowledge, no secret is truly secret from it, no future is uncertain to it. However, communicating with such an entity presents challenges that go beyond mere danger. Yog-Sothoth does not think in terms that translate easily into human language or concepts. When it communicates, it does so by imposing fragments of its awareness onto the consciousness of the recipient. The experience is described by those who have survived it as having all knowledge forced into one's mind at once, not sequentially or in any organized fashion, but as a simultaneous, overwhelming avalanche of information that includes answers to questions one hasn't asked, and truths about aspects of reality for which human consciousness has no framework for understanding. Entities trapped in other dimensions cannot enter our reality except through Yog-Sothoth. In this sense, every instance of dimensional travel, every summoning of entities from beyond, every glimpse into other realms, all of these necessarily involve Yog-Sothoth, whether the participants realize it or not. This makes Yog-Sothoth the most accessible of the outer gods in some ways, yet also the most dangerous. Its very nature as the boundary means it is always present wherever dimensions meet, or might potentially meet. A properly performed ritual can contact Yog-Sothoth from virtually anywhere, provided the practitioner has the necessary knowledge. But this accessibility comes with the certainty that Yog-Sothoth will respond according to its own incomprehensible nature, not according to the summoner's desires or intentions. The entity's existence also implies disturbing truths about free will and determinism. If Yog-Sothoth perceives all of time simultaneously, then in some sense, all events have already occurred from its perspective. The question of whether humans possess genuine free will, or merely act out predetermined roles, becomes not just philosophical, but cosmically certain and horrifying when viewed through the lens of Yog-Sothoth's nature. Those unfortunate enough to witness Yog-Sothoth attempt to describe an appearance that defies rational language. The entity manifests as a congeries of iridescent globes, spheres that swell, contract, and merge in endless motion. Their sizes vary without pattern, and they emit a nauseating luminescence that seems to exist in colors absent from the natural spectrum, hues the human eye was never meant to register. In the case of Charles Dexter Ward, Lovecraft offers another fleeting glimpse of this presence, describing an overwhelming sense of wrongness that permeates the very air when Yog-Sothoth is summoned. The spheres composing its visible form are not solid matter as humans understand it. They phase in and out of perceptible reality, suggesting that what is seen is merely a three-dimensional cross-section of a being whose true existence extends across incomprehensible dimensions. To behold Yog-Sothoth is not simply to witness something monstrous, but to suffer a catastrophic collapse of one's understanding of reality itself. The madness that follows is not the result of fear or psychological trauma, but of revelation. The observer is confronted with a truth the human mind cannot accommodate, that time, space, and causality are not fixed structures, but crude approximations of a far more complex and alien order. In that instant, the comforting coherence of the universe dissolves. Some witnesses report that upon contact, all moments of time collapse into a single unbearable present, past, future, and now experienced simultaneously. Others speak of impossible geometries, angles that fold inward upon themselves, and colors that seem to violate the laws of perception. The mind, unable to process these contradictions, begins to fracture under their weight. The resulting madness takes many forms. Some victims become catatonic, their consciousness withdrawing entirely from a reality it can no longer interpret. Others grow obsessed with the forbidden knowledge they glimpsed, spending their remaining days scrawling indecipherable formulas and diagrams in futile attempts to preserve fragments of understanding that their conscious minds cannot retain. Still others experience a dissolution of identity, believing themselves scattered across time and space, existing in multiple places and moments at once. Most tragic are those who retain just enough sanity to comprehend what they have seen. They live on with the knowledge that the ordered world others inhabit is a fragile fiction, aware that existence is governed by principles utterly indifferent to human meaning. Unable to communicate this truth and denied the mercy of ignorance, they endure a lifetime of quiet horror. This madness is not a failure of will or mental strength. It is the inevitable consequence of forcing a human consciousness to confront information that exceeds its capacity to contain, like attempting to pour an ocean into a teacup. The vessel does not merely overflow, it breaks. The genealogy of Yog-Sothoth connects to some of the most significant entities in the cosmic hierarchy. According to various sources within the mythos, Yog-Sothoth is the grandson of Azathoth, the blind idiot god who writhes and bubbles at the center of ultimate chaos. This connection to Azathoth places Yog-Sothoth among the outer gods, beings of such fundamental cosmic significance that they exist beyond the comprehension of both humanity and the lesser cosmic entities. Yog-Sothoth is the son of the Nameless Mist, one of Azathoth's direct descendants. The Nameless Mist itself represents one of the primal forces that emerged from Azathoth's chaotic essence, serving as an intermediary between the ultimate nuclear chaos and the more defined cosmic entities that followed. Through this lineage, Yog-Sothoth inherits aspects of primordial chaos while possessing a defined consciousness and purpose that Azathoth itself lacks. Through this cosmic family tree, Yog-Sothoth shares connections with other prominent entities. Cthulhu is considered either a half-brother or grandson, depending on the interpretation of the genealogical texts, though the exact relationship remains deliberately obscure in the fragmented sources that reference it. Hastur the Unspeakable is also related through this lineage, though again the precise nature of their kinship varies across different forbidden manuscripts. Some texts suggest that Shub-Niggurath, the black goat of the woods with 1,000 young, shares a sibling relationship with Yog-Sothoth, both being offspring of different aspects or emanations of Azathoth. The entity's own progeny represents one of the most disturbing aspects of its legend. Yog-Sothoth is capable of mating with mortal beings, though the results of such unions invariably prove catastrophic. The entity possesses no consort in the traditional sense, as outer gods exist beyond such mortal concepts of partnership or marriage, yet it has sired offspring with human women through rituals of summoning. These unions do not occur through any biological process recognizable to human science, but rather through a form of dimensional interpenetration, where Yog-Sothoth's essence crosses into our reality and mingles with mortal flesh at a fundamental level. Beyond the infamous Whatley twins born in Dunwich, legends speak of other offspring scattered throughout history. These children invariably inherit some portion of their father's otherworldly nature, manifesting abilities and characteristics that mark them as something other than human. Some possess knowledge they could not have learned through normal means, speaking in languages that predate human civilization, or understanding mathematical principles that will not be discovered for centuries. Others display physical anomalies, extra limbs, organs that serve no discernible biological function, or the ability to perceive dimensions of space invisible to normal human vision. The children of Yog-Sothoth face a peculiar curse. They exist partially outside of normal time, experiencing glimpses of past and future that torment them with knowledge of events they cannot change or prevent. Many of these offspring do not survive to adulthood, their hybrid nature proving incompatible with sustained existence in our dimension. Their bodies reject the physical laws of our universe even as those laws reject them, leading to progressive degeneration or sudden catastrophic dissolution. Interestingly, Yog-Sothoth's descendants seem to carry an instinctive drive towards specific purposes, as if their father's unfathomable will expresses itself through them. Many become obsessed with opening gates between dimensions, gathering forbidden knowledge, or preparing the way for the return of the outer gods. Whether this represents genuine inherited purpose or simply the inevitable consequence of their hybrid nature, drawing them toward the spaces between worlds, remains unclear. The genealogical records found in texts like the Necronomicon suggest that Yog-Sothoth has produced offspring not only with humans, but with other species across different planets and dimensions. The concept of species becomes meaningless when dealing with an entity that exists across all of space-time simultaneously. Yog-Sothoth can theoretically mate with any form of life in any era or location, and the fragmentary evidence suggests it has done so repeatedly throughout cosmic history. These alien offspring serve purposes even more obscure than their human counterparts, existing in dimensions and time periods where human observers cannot study or document them. Some occult genealogies claim that certain royal bloodlines and aristocratic families trace their ancestry back to Yog-Sothoth through unions that occurred centuries or even millennia ago. These bloodlines allegedly carry diluted but persistent traces of the entity's essence, manifesting as increased sensitivity to occult forces, prophetic dreams, or the ability to perceive things hidden from normal human awareness. Whether these claims represent genuine lineage or the delusions of noble families seeking to justify their power through cosmic ancestry remains a matter of debate among scholars of the forbidden. The relationship between Yog-Sothoth and its offspring appears entirely one-sided. The entity shows no parental concern or interest in its descendants' welfare. It does not protect them, guide them, or acknowledge their existence in any meaningful way. They are simply consequences of its interactions with our dimension, no more significant to Yog-Sothoth than footprints are to the traveler who leaves them behind. This indifference extends even to offspring who actively work to serve what they perceive as their father's purposes. Yog-Sothoth neither rewards their service nor punishes their failures, existing in a state of cosmic detachment that recognizes no familial bonds. The cycle of Yog-Sothoth's reproduction creates a peculiar problem for those who would protect humanity from cosmic threats. Each generation of offspring potentially carries the knowledge and ability to summon their progenitor, making them vectors through which Yog-Sothoth's influence can spread across time. Hunting down and eliminating these descendants becomes a grim necessity for certain occult organizations. Yet the task proves nearly impossible. How does one identify the children of an entity that exists outside of time, when those children might be born in any era and carry no obvious physical markers of their heritage until their powers manifest? The most detailed legend of Yog-Sothoth's interaction with humanity comes from the events in Dunwich, Massachusetts. In this isolated rural community, a deformed albino named Wilbur Whatley becomes the focal point of his grandfather's obsessive magical research. Old Whatley, deeply versed in forbidden knowledge, seeks to summon Yog-Sothoth for a purpose that goes beyond mere occult curiosity. Through complex rituals performed on Sentinel Hill, Old Whatley succeeds in calling Yog-Sothoth forth. On the night of Candlemas, February 2nd, the entity manifests and mates with Lavinia Whatley, Wilbur's mother. From this unholy union, twin sons are born. Wilbur, though deformed and inhuman in many respects, maintains a semi-human appearance and grows at an alarming rate. His twin brother, however, remains hidden within the Whatley farmhouse, invisible to normal human perception, but possessed of an enormous and growing physical presence. Lovecraft describes Wilbur as reaching adult size by age 10, his voice deepening unnaturally early. The child speaks in ways that suggest knowledge no human child should possess. Old Whatley has the farmhouse significantly modified, with upper floors removed and rooms expanded, supposedly to accommodate Wilbur's rapid growth. But the truth proves far more disturbing. These modifications serve to contain Wilbur's twin brother, the purely alien offspring who inherits more of Yog-Sothoth's nature than human form. The legend reaches its crisis when Wilbur, at age 15, attempts to steal the Latin translation of the Necronomicon from Miskatonic University's library. He seeks specific incantations necessary to complete his grandfather's work, opening the gates to allow the outer gods, including his father Yog-Sothoth, full access to Earth's reality. During his break-in attempt, a guard dog attacks and kills Wilbur, revealing his true nature. His body, as documented in the coroner's notes mentioned in the story, shows characteristics both human and utterly alien, additional body parts, strange appendages, and biological features that belong to no known terrestrial species. With Wilbur's death, his twin brother breaks free from the dilapidated Whatley farmhouse. This entity, invisible but tangible, begins destroying everything in its path. Witnesses report seeing trees crushed, buildings demolished, and animals devoured by something they cannot see but can hear, a cacophony of sounds that includes elements of both terrestrial animal cries and utterly alien utterances. The creature moves across the countryside, growing ever larger as it feeds. Its path of destruction leads toward Sentinel Hill, where Old Whatley originally summoned Yog-Sothoth. Professor Henry Armitage of Miskatonic University, having studied Wilbur's papers after his death, understands the apocalyptic implications. The creature intends to complete the ritual its grandfather began, to open the gate permanently and allow Yog-Sothoth and the other outer gods full access to Earth's dimension. The consequences would have been the complete dissolution of reality as humans understand it. The laws of physics would cease to apply, time would lose all meaning, and space itself would become as fluid and chaotic as the realms beyond the gate. On Sentinel Hill, in a ritual battle between human sorcery and alien power, Professor Armitage and his colleagues confront the invisible spawn. Using formulas from the very texts Wilbur sought to steal, they banish the creature. In its final moments, as it dies and becomes visible, observers witness something so profoundly alien that their descriptions seem like the ravings of madness. A massive amorphous entity covered in tentacles, mouths, and eyes, bearing partial resemblance to various terrestrial species, but assembled in configurations that violate natural law. Yog-Sothoth's powers derive from its unique position in cosmic reality. As the gate, it controls access between dimensions, between the normal universe and the realms beyond where the outer gods dwell. Nothing can pass between these realms without Yog-Sothoth's involvement, either through direct action or through the exploitation of knowledge stolen from it. The entity possesses absolute knowledge of time. It perceives past, present, and future simultaneously, making it functionally omniscient within the bounds of this universe and beyond. This knowledge makes Yog-Sothoth one of the most sought-after entities for summoning by ambitious sorcerers, despite the tremendous dangers involved. Those who successfully contact Yog-Sothoth can theoretically obtain any knowledge, the location of hidden treasures, the outcomes of future events, the secrets of other dimensions, or the true names and natures of other cosmic entities. However, this knowledge comes at an unspeakable price. Yog-Sothoth does not give freely, and the cost of its knowledge typically involves one's humanity, sanity, or soul. The entity exists beyond concepts of good and evil. These are human constructs that hold no meaning for something that exists across all of time and space simultaneously. Yog-Sothoth can manifest anywhere and anywhen, though such manifestations require either specific rituals or the presence of certain cosmic alignments. The entity responds to invocations, but does so according to its own incomprehensible purposes. When it appears, reality itself becomes unstable. The laws of physics become suggestions rather than rules. Time may flow backward or cease flowing entirely. Spatial relationships lose meaning, distances become non-Euclidean, and objects may exist in multiple locations simultaneously. The summoning of Yog-Sothoth requires extensive preparation and knowledge found only in the most forbidden texts. The Necronomicon, written by the mad Arab Abdul al-Hazred, contains multiple references to Yog-Sothoth and the procedures for invoking it. These rituals typically involve specific astronomical configurations, as certain times and places in space-time create weak points where the barriers between dimensions thin. The most effective summonings occur at sites of cosmic significance, places where the geometry of space naturally deviates from normal Euclidean patterns. Sentinel Hill in Dunwich represents one such location, as do various other sites mentioned throughout Lovecraft's works. These places often feature unusual rock formations, strange magnetic properties, or histories of unexplained phenomena. The ritual itself requires materials that bridge the gap between human reality and the spaces beyond, rare minerals, elements prepared under specific conditions, and, most importantly, the blood of living beings. The chants used to invoke Yog-Sothoth appear in various forms across different texts, but they consistently include certain phonemes that seem to resonate with the fundamental structure of reality itself. Throughout history, legends speak of individuals who sought Yog-Sothoth's knowledge and paid terrible prices. The mad Arab Abdullah Hazret himself is said to have contacted Yog-Sothoth during his wanderings in the empty quarter of Arabia, where he learned cosmic truths that would eventually fill his Necronomicon. The madness that consumed him in his final years allegedly stemmed from the knowledge Yog-Sothoth revealed. In Through the Gates of the Silver Key, Lovecraft presents another legend involving Yog-Sothoth. Randolph Carter, seeking to recapture his childhood dreams, uses a silver key to unlock doorways through time and space. At the ultimate threshold, he encounters Yog-Sothoth, who serves as the guardian of the final gate. The entity reveals to Carter the true nature of existence, that individual identity is an illusion, that all beings are merely facets of a greater cosmic whole, and that what humans perceive as reality is only one possible configuration of infinite dimensional possibilities. This encounter transforms Carter fundamentally. He loses his human form, becoming scattered across time and space, existing in multiple bodies across different eras and dimensions simultaneously. While some might view this as transcendence, the story presents it as a form of cosmic annihilation, the dissolution of individual consciousness into the greater horror of ultimate reality. Yog-Sothoth occupies a unique position among the Outer Gods and Great Old Ones. While entities like Cthulhu remain imprisoned, waiting for the stars to become right for their return, Yog-Sothoth actively interacts with reality from its position outside of it. The entity serves as an intermediary of sorts, though not by choice or design. Its nature as the gate means that all passages between realms must somehow involve it. When cultists seek to summon entities from beyond, they often must first invoke Yog-Sothoth to open the way, then perform additional rituals to call forth the specific entity they desire. This makes Yog-Sothoth perhaps the most frequently summoned of all the Outer Gods, despite the extreme dangers involved. Unlike Azathoth, Yog-Sothoth possesses full consciousness and intelligence, though its thought processes operate on scales and in patterns completely alien to human cognition. It understands the desires of its summoners, even if those desires are meaningless from its cosmic perspective. The entity can communicate, after a fashion, though its revelations often drive listeners mad, as human minds cannot process the multidimensional truths it conveys. The ultimate danger Yog-Sothoth represents lies not in any malicious intent. The entity exists beyond such human concepts, but in what its nature implies about reality itself. As the gate, Yog-Sothoth's very existence suggests that the universe humans perceive is merely one thin layer of reality, separated from churning chaos only by fragile dimensional barriers. The rituals that summon Yog-Sothoth weaken these barriers. Each invocation creates ripples in the structure of space-time, small tears that may eventually grow. The old Whatley's work in Dunwich represented an attempt to tear these barriers down permanently, allowing Yog-Sothoth and the other Outer Gods full access to Earth's dimension. The consequences would have been the complete dissolution of reality as humans understand it. This apocalyptic potential makes Yog-Sothoth central to many legends within the mythos. Various cults worship the entity not out of love or reverence in any human sense, but out of a nihilistic desire to end the current order of reality. They believe that the universe's true nature is chaos, and that the ordered cosmos humans inhabit is an aberration that should be corrected by opening the gates and allowing the Outer Gods to restore primordial chaos. Understanding Yog-Sothoth requires abandoning human-centered concepts of existence. The entity does not simply exist in space, it is coterminous with all space. It does not experience time, it is simultaneous with all time. This makes the entity effectively omnipresent and omniscient within certain bounds. It cannot be destroyed because destruction implies a temporal process, and Yog-Sothoth exists outside of time. It cannot be evaded because evasion implies distance, and Yog-Sothoth is coterminous with all locations, while Yog-Sothoth's consciousness operates across all timelines simultaneously. The entity represents the ultimate truth that Lovecraft explored throughout his cosmic horror, that humanity's place in the universe is insignificant, that the cosmos operates according to laws and principles completely indifferent to human welfare, and that the ordered reality we perceive is merely a thin veneer over churning dimensional chaos. Those who study Yog-Sothoth extensively, even without attempting summoning, report disturbing phenomena. Dreams become vivid and strange, filled with visions of impossible geometries and dimensions that fold in on themselves. Some report hearing whispers at the edges of perception, sounds that seem to come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. These whispers allegedly contain fragments of knowledge, formulas, names, cosmic truths, but attempting to remember them clearly upon waking proves impossible, as if human memory simply cannot retain such information in conscious states. Certain scholars who have devoted their lives to studying the entity report a gradual shift in their perception of reality. They begin to see patterns in seemingly random events, connections between moments in time that suggest everything is predetermined and simultaneous. Some claim to experience brief moments where they perceive reality as Yog-Sothoth does, all moments existing at once, past and future as accessible as the present, before their minds recoil from the experience, unable to maintain such a state without dissolving entirely. Yog-Sothoth remains one of the most fundamental and terrifying entities in cosmic horror, not because of any malicious agenda, but because of what it represents. The truth that our reality is far more fragile and insignificant than we wish to believe. As the gate and the key, it stands at the threshold between the ordered universe we inhabit and the chaos that lurks beyond. The legends surrounding Yog-Sothoth serve as warnings to those who would seek forbidden knowledge or attempt to transcend human limitations through contact with forces beyond comprehension. From the tragedy of Dunwich to the transformation of Randolph Carter, these stories emphasize that some gates are locked for good reason, and some knowledge comes at prices too terrible to pay. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of cosmic horror's most enigmatic entities. If you found this exploration of Yog-Sothoth fascinating, please share it with others who appreciate the mysteries of the Cthulhu Mythos. We'll return in future episodes to explore other entities from this dark pantheon. Until then, remember that some doors are best left unopened, and some names are best left unspoken in the darkness.